I wasn't supposed to be in the office that late. It was well past midnight when I walked through the dim hallway, heels muffled against the carpeted floor. The building should have been silent, empty. But from the glass conference room at the end of the corridor, a soft glow pulsed from a laptop screen. I paused, squinting through the frosted glass, and saw her. Harper Wells. Perfect hair. Perfect posture. Perfect lies.
She didn't notice me.
Not at first. She was too busy rehearsing something in front of her screen, gesturing, smiling, clicking through slides that looked hauntingly familiar. I stepped closer. My breath caught. The charts. The layout. The algorithm. She was practicing my presentation. My name wasn't on it anymore. The logo and title were the same, but the author slide? It had her credentials. My mind spun in slow motion, refusing to believe what my eyes saw. I blinked, hoping I was wrong. But I wasn't. I knew every single transition, every bullet point, every visual aid because I spent the last 3 months building it from scratch. I wasn't supposed to be in the office that late, but fate brought me there. I stood frozen, fingers twitching by my side. My laptop bag suddenly felt like 100 pounds. I wanted to burst into the room, call her out, demand an explanation, but I didn't. I stayed quiet, and I watched. Harper looked proud, excited, like she'd struck gold. And in her mind, she had. I slipped back into the shadows and turned away before she noticed me. Back at my desk, I sat down and stared at my blank screen, breathing hard. The betrayal felt like acid in my chest. Harper and I were never close, but we weren't enemies either. Just two ambitious women climbing the same brutal ladder. We worked in the same department, but I'd always kept my distance. I didn't trust easily, and I trusted her least of all. She was slick.
Charming.
The kind of woman who made you feel like you were the only person in the room, until the moment she didn't need you anymore. But I never thought she'd stoop to this. I remembered the day I first mentioned my project in the break room. It was casual. I'd had a long night working on the beta design and muttered something about an AI-integrated learning system. She'd nodded, asked a few questions, nothing deep, just enough to feign interest. After that, she'd occasionally stop by my cubicle, make small talk, glance at my whiteboard. She'd compliment my creativity, laugh at my jokes. Seemed harmless enough. I had no idea she was watching, recording, stealing. I looked down at my planner. My name, Isla Morgan, was scribbled across the week's agenda. The pitch presentation was scheduled for Thursday. It was Tuesday night, or, technically, Wednesday morning, and Harper was going to present it to the board as her own. A lump formed in my throat as I realized no one would believe me if I just said the words. Harper was everyone's favorite. She had a magnetic charm, knew how to play politics, always smiled at the right people. I, on the other hand, had always kept to myself. Quiet, head down, focused. I didn't go to happy hours. I didn't gossip in the kitchen. I built things. Apparently, things worth stealing. I could still feel my heart pounding in my chest, the silence of the empty office around me like a scream. The betrayal stung not just because it was unethical, but because I trusted that I could prove myself with that project. It wasn't just data and code, it was my dream, my promotion, my future. And now it was her weapon. I shut my laptop and packed my bag. As I walked toward the elevator, the fluorescent lights flickered above me, casting long shadows on the floor. My heels echoed now, sharp, certain. I wasn't going to confront her.
Not yet.
This wasn't going to be a heated argument in a hallway. This was going to be a lesson, one she'd never forget. The elevator doors opened, and I stepped inside. My reflection in the metal walls looked like a stranger, tight jaw, clenched fists, eyes that burned with something new. I'd never done anything calculated before. I wasn't built for revenge. But maybe I was now. I opened my phone and started scrolling through my files, checking timestamps, backups, version history. I had all the original drafts, dates, work logs. Even had audio notes I'd recorded during my brainstorming sessions, one of which I knew mentioned Harper by name as someone I wanted to get feedback from. A paper trail. And if Harper had accessed my files without permission, I could trace that too. As I stepped into the cold night air outside the building, I finally allowed myself to breathe. The city lights shimmered like fractured stars around me. This wasn't just about getting credit. This was about dignity, justice. And I'd make sure she regretted ever thinking I was the kind of woman she could walk over. The next morning, I arrived at the office earlier than usual. I hadn't slept much, not that I tried. My mind wouldn't stop replaying Harper's smug face as she clicked through my slides. My hands trembled slightly as I set down my coffee and opened my laptop, but my mind was razor sharp. I started digging. Our company used a collaborative network with tight controls, but not tight enough for someone like me who knew how to look. I wasn't just a designer. I'd studied cybersecurity during my graduate years. Not professionally, but enough to know where digital fingerprints lived. First, I checked the server access logs. No surprise, Harper's login had downloaded a zip file titled model_alpha_final, a PPTX, late last week. That was my exact file name. I had encrypted it, but she'd somehow gotten in. Maybe it was that intern I once asked to transfer the file, Noah. He'd been shadowing Harper lately. I noted the timestamp. Then, I checked the network folder logs. That's when I saw it. She'd renamed the file and re-uploaded it under her account, changed just enough of the design so that to an outsider it would look like a coincidence. But to me, every pixel screamed my work.
There was no denying it now.
She hadn't just taken my idea. She'd taken the very bones of my work and stitched it into something she could wear. Mid-morning, Harper waltzed in. She wore a sharp red blazer, confident, bold, hungry. She greeted people like nothing had happened, like she hadn't just carved someone else's future into her own. When she passed my desk, she stopped. "Morning, Isla," she said sweetly. "Big day tomorrow, huh?" I forced a smile, one that didn't reach my eyes. "Yeah, big day." She paused for a split second, just long enough for a silent message to pass between us. I knew. She knew I knew, and she was daring me to do something. I didn't blink. The rest of the day passed in a blur of emails and quiet rage. Every time someone mentioned Harper's breakthrough idea, I felt the air tighten around me. People whispered behind cubicles, praising her genius. My stomach twisted with every overheard compliment. By lunch, I'd stopped pretending. I pulled out my phone and opened my voice memos. One particular note, dated 6 weeks ago, contained a detailed explanation of my project idea. I mentioned the structure, the learning algorithm, the anticipated impact, and Harper's name, right at the end, with a passing comment. Harper said I should focus more on the adaptive learning side, but I'm not sure. It's still my project.
Timestamped.
Unmistakable. I forwarded it to my personal drive, along with screenshots of all my backups, logs, and version histories. Then I began planning. That evening, I visited someone I rarely talked to anymore, Caleb, my former team lead. He was one of the few people in the company I trusted, even though we'd grown distant after he moved to a different division. We met in a quiet cafe, tucked into a corner booth. "What's this really about?" he asked, frowning at the urgency in my voice. I told him everything, without the anger, without the emotion. Just facts. At first, he was skeptical. "Are you sure she didn't just come up with a similar idea? I mean, this happens in tech all the time." I slid my phone across the table and hit play. The memo played, crisp and damning. Then I showed him the access logs. Caleb's eyes darkened. "You can't go to HR with this. You need to go higher. I need someone to back me when the board hears the truth." He looked at me, studied me like I was someone new. "You've changed." "I've learned," I said quietly. "You either let people walk all over you, or you make them remember why they shouldn't." Back home, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. I checked my emails again. That's when I saw it. An anonymous message. No subject. No signature. Just one line. "She's done this before. You're not the first." My heart skipped. I reread it 5 times. I replied instantly. "Who are you?" No response. I sat frozen, staring at the screen, then looked back at Harper's social media. Polished. professional, curated. But I started digging deeper. Old LinkedIn connections. Former employers. A woman named Mara Lang. Her name popped up under co-project manager on Harper's resume 5 years ago. I searched for Mara. Found her Twitter. Inactive. Then her Medium blog, abandoned after one angry post. I thought we were building something together. Turns out, I was just building something for her to steal. No names. No direct accusations. But I knew. This was a pattern. The next morning, Harper walked into the meeting room for final rehearsals. I watched her from the glass door, composed, unreadable. She was about to present a dream that didn't belong to her, and I had everything I needed to take it back. But I wasn't going to stop her. Not yet. Let her fly. Let her think she's already won. Because I had one last move.
And it would be checkmate.
I didn't sleep that night either. But this time, I wasn't tired. I was energized. The puzzle pieces were coming together faster than I expected. And what I discovered shifted the ground beneath me. It started with Mara Lang. Her blog post had haunted me. Not just because it sounded like my own situation, but because the anger behind her words felt raw, unfinished. I went further. I found Mara on Facebook, profile private, but her work history was visible. She'd left her tech firm abruptly, no explanation. A sudden 3-month gap. No other job listed until half a year later. I Googled press releases from Harper's previous company around that time. And there it was. Innovative Youth App receives major grant. Head developer, Harper Wells.
But the app?
It used the exact same neural mapping system Mara had written about in an old public research paper, one that had mysteriously gone unpublished. My hands shook as I linked the two timelines. It wasn't a one-time fluke. Harper had a pattern. She worked with smarter people, quiet people, people who didn't fight back. Then she took their work, polished it, and made it hers. And every time she rose higher. This wasn't rivalry. This was theft in a tailored suit. The next day arrived like a storm cloud, heavy with anticipation. Thursday morning. Board presentation day. I walked into the building dressed sharply, with a flash drive in my pocket and 2 paper folders in my bag. One held the final proof of my authorship. The other? My resignation letter. Not because I was giving up, but because I wanted them to know, if they didn't do the right thing, I would burn the bridge and build something better without them. The conference room was filled by 9 a.m. executives. Partners. Even the COO had flown in. This wasn't just any pitch. This was the quarterly innovation pitch. The winner would receive project funding and a guaranteed promotion. I watched Harper take the podium, radiant in confidence. She opened her slides. My slides. She smiled, greeted the room, and started speaking. And I let her. For the first 5 minutes, I just listened. It was almost perfect. Too perfect. She had rehearsed my story, but she didn't understand it. She talked about features, mechanics, buzzwords. But not why I built it. Not the human problem I was trying to solve. And that's when I stood up. "Excuse me," I said clearly, stepping forward. The room froze.
Harper blinked at me.
"Isla, I'll only take 2 minutes. But if I don't speak now, this company risks making a very expensive mistake." Someone cleared their throat at the board table. "Go on." I took out the flash drive and walked to the AV setup. This is the original build log, file archive, and version history of the project Harper is presenting. You'll see the metadata, timestamps, and audio notes. The project was built solely under my account over a 3-month period. The only time Harper's login appears is when she accessed it without permission. Murmurs broke out. Harper's face turned pale. "And this," I said, pulling out the memo from my bag, "is a voice note I recorded 6 weeks ago, describing the entire system. It predates any version of her presentation. It even mentions her because back then I actually thought she was offering helpful advice." I hit play. The audio filled the room, my voice, explaining every line of the design. Then Harper's name. "I don't know if I'll even pitch it," my voice said. "But I've built too much to stop now." Silence. One executive leaned forward. Do you have any evidence she used your work without authorization? Yes, I said, clicking the final slide, a screenshot of the server access logs showing Harper's download activity. The COO finally spoke. Harper, would you like to respond? She stammered. This is a misunderstanding. Isla and I shared ideas all the time. It was collaborative. She never objected. I turned to face her directly. I didn't object because I didn't know you were stealing. And I stayed silent until now. Harper looked around the room, desperate for support. No one came to her defense. The COO stood.
Thank you, Isla.
We'll need to verify all this, but if what you say is accurate, this is a serious breach of ethics. Then, after a pause, Harper, we'll speak privately. She looked like she might faint. I sat down, heart racing. I hadn't expected the room to go silent like that. I thought there'd be pushback, or denial, or someone saying this isn't the place. But I had overprepared. I had truth on my side, and truth doesn't blink. As the board adjourned the session, I gathered my things. I felt a hand on my shoulder. Caleb. You were brilliant, he said. They needed to see it. I didn't want to destroy her, I whispered. I just wanted my work back. She destroyed herself. Later that afternoon, I received a call from HR. Harper had been suspended pending investigation. But the board didn't wait. By 5 p.m., I got the official notice. The project was being reassigned to me, and the promotion offer was reinstated. But the strangest thing? It didn't feel like triumph. It felt like survival. Because I had almost let someone steal a piece of me and wear it like a crown. And now that I had it back, I realized how close I'd come to losing much more than just credit. The next morning, I arrived early again, this time not out of anxiety, but purpose. The air in the office felt different. Thinner. Uneasy. Whispers curled around cubicles like smoke. I could feel the tension pressing against the windows, humming through the floor. Harper wasn't at her desk. Her nameplate was still there, but her coffee mug was gone. I sat down and opened my laptop. Emails were flooding in, congratulations, questions, offers for collaboration. The same people who had sung Harper's praises days ago were now quietly sliding back into my good graces. It was disgusting. But I understood the game now. And I was done playing it quietly. At 11:34 a.m., Harper showed up. She walked in slowly, like someone coming back from a war zone. No blazer today, just a wrinkled blouse and hollow eyes. She paused at the edge of the room, scanning for me. And then she walked over. I stood before she could speak. Isla, she started, her voice low, almost human. Can we talk? Just somewhere private. I said nothing for a long moment, just looked at her. Finally, I nodded. We went to the small meeting room down the hall, the one with the frosted glass and thin walls. I closed the door behind us.
She didn't sit.
Neither did I. I didn't come here to beg, she said quickly. But I need you to know, I didn't mean for it to go this far. I raised an eyebrow. You didn't mean to steal my work, pitch it, take credit, and get promoted? That's not, she sighed, shaking her head. I thought I could help shape it, make it better. No, Harper. You thought I'd stay quiet. That landed. She opened her mouth again, but I cut her off. Do you know how many times I told myself to ignore it? How many nights I blamed myself for not speaking up sooner? You weren't just taking credit. You were rewriting me out of my own story. A flicker of guilt crossed her face. Or maybe just fear. I've done a lot for this company, she said weakly. So have I. The difference is I did it honestly. She turned away then, like she couldn't bear to meet my eyes. I took a slow breath. My voice softened, but it didn't lose its edge. I wasn't going to fight you at first. I thought maybe I could let it go, move on. But then I found Mara. Harper froze. I saw what you did to her. And the others. You don't leave people behind. You erase them. She turned back slowly, her face hardening. You think this industry rewards the quiet ones, Isla? The polite ones? You think integrity gets you promotions? No, I said. But I do. I walked out. Let her sit with the silence. Let her feel what it's like to be overlooked, unheard, dismissed. She had built her career on borrowed time, borrowed ideas, borrowed brilliance. And the lease had expired. Later that afternoon, HR called again. Harper had officially resigned. They didn't release a statement. No public drama. Just a quiet exit. But word spread fast. And just like that, she was gone. Vanished. That evening, I stayed late. The office was quiet. Just the low hum of lights and the occasional clack of a distant keyboard. I opened my project one more time, reviewing the flowchart, the neural feedback loops, the test case reports. My creation. My fingerprints on every corner. This time, I didn't feel rage or adrenaline. I felt calm. A storm had passed. And I was still standing. Then my phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. What you did took guts.
She did the same to me.
I never had the courage to stop her. You did. Thank you. No name. But I knew who it was. Another voice Harper had tried to silence.
And now?
They were speaking up again. Given recent events and your remarkable poise under pressure, we'd like to discuss a strategic leadership role for you in the upcoming restructure. Let's set up a time to talk. I sat back in my chair. It felt surreal. Not because I'd won, but because I hadn't needed to become someone else to do it. I hadn't cheated, manipulated, or clawed my way up. I just told the truth. And let it echo. Before I left the office, I packed the last folder I'd kept in my drawer, a dusty stack of sketches, early scribbles, messy ideas from months ago. They reminded me of where I started, of the version of me who still doubted herself. I held them for a moment, then slid them into my bag, because I was done doubting. 2 weeks passed. Harper was gone. Her desk remained empty for days, like a grave no one wanted to visit. Eventually, someone removed her nameplate. The flowers wilted. The silence returned. But the energy in the office shifted. People watched me differently now, not with suspicion or politeness, but with quiet respect. They came to me with questions, asked for my feedback. Some apologized for not seeing what had happened sooner. I accepted their apologies. But I didn't forget. I was offered the leadership position by the end of that week. Head of Innovation Strategy. My own team. Full control of the project. I said yes, not for the title or the money, but because I had a vision that no one else could see clearly but me. And now I had the freedom and the authority to build it the right way. Still, something inside me hadn't settled. Not entirely. So one evening, I sat alone in the break room with my laptop open, staring at Harper's final access logs. The last thing she downloaded before resigning? A zip folder labeled. One of the earliest versions of my project. Rough. Incomplete. But still mine. I stared at the screen for a long time. Why had she taken it? That night, I received another email. It was a screenshot of a Reddit thread under a burner account. The title? Exposing a tech thief. My boss stole everything. It was Mara. She had gone public. Finally. She'd shared her experience, her emails, screenshots of her original designs. And in the comments, dozens of people chimed in. Same happened to me. Let's talk. I think she worked with my friend too. This is a pattern. It needs to stop. I closed the email and leaned back. Justice has a strange rhythm. It moves slow, uneven, quiet. But when it lands, it leaves cracks. And Harper? She had built her empire on stolen ground. Now it was collapsing under her feet. A few days later, something stranger happened. I received a physical letter. No return address. Inside was a small note card. Handwritten. I made mistakes. You didn't let me get away with it. I don't know if I'm sorry yet. But I'm not proud either. Maybe that's a start. H. No excuses. No justifications. Just a broken acknowledgement. It didn't absolve her, but it ended the chapter. Months passed. We launched the project under a new name, Aurora. A nod to light after darkness. It exploded. The press loved it. Investors swarmed in. We opened talks with international partners. My inbox became a waterfall of speaking invites and consulting offers. But I kept my circle small. I remembered what it felt like to be just smart enough to be valuable, but just quiet enough to be overlooked. Now, I made sure that no one in my team felt like that. Ever. One morning, as I sipped my coffee on the rooftop balcony, I thought about everything. Not the accolades, but the version of me who almost let it go. Who almost walked away because silence felt safer than confrontation. And I realized, sometimes revenge isn't about burning someone else's house down. It's about rebuilding your own. Stronger. Louder. Bulletproof. That afternoon, as I was organizing my files for a keynote event, I came across something unexpected. A forgotten audio recording in my voice memos folder. Dated nearly a year ago. Curious, I hit play. Note to self. If this idea ever goes somewhere, don't forget why you started. It wasn't for recognition. It was because someone needed this. Maybe someone like me. Someone who deserved to be seen. I smiled. I didn't cry. But I felt something shift. Closure, maybe. Or peace. I locked my computer. Grabbed my coat. As I walked out of the building that night, the city lights blinked back at me, like secrets waiting to be discovered. I'd lost time. I'd lost trust. But I'd found something even greater. I had found my voice. And no one was ever stealing it again.